in our reserve unit while I was attending school. Went full-time in 1993, corrections. Spent about 12 years on patrol in different aspects. Went into our domestic violence child abuse unit as a detective, and then became a supervisor in that unit, and now I do jail investigations.
Okay. And do you recognize the fellow seated at the table over here in the white shirt, short sleeve shirt?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what is his name?
Riley Goll.
How long have you known Riley Gaul?
Since he was about 7.
Okay. And what is the circumstances under which you knew Riley Gaul, or have known him?
My youngest son and him went to school together and played sports together.
Okay. And as part of that relationship with your youngest son, did you have an opportunity to get to know Riley Gaul?
I did.
And have you had him at your home?
He has been.
Over the years, how many times would you say?
Like 10.
Okay. And what high school did your son go to?
Central High School.
And that's the same high school, obviously, as Riley Gaul?
Yes, sir.
And during the time that your son was in high school, did you also develop friendships with other parents of players there at Central?
Yes, sir. And
Jim Walker and Amy Walker, are they known to you?
Yes, sir.
Tell the members of the jury how you know Jim and Amy Walker.
Especially through just playing football. We would see them at football games. Just developed a friendship through that.
Just fans and boosters with a common purpose of the Central Bobcats?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with regard to that, did you ever spend any time with Jim and Amy Walker, socially?
Not socially.
Okay. But just knew them as friends?
Yes.
And during this entire time, you've been a police officer?
Yes.
And it was known to Riley Gaul and to Mr. The Walkers that you were a police officer?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to turn your attention to Monday, November 21, the day that Emma Walker was found dead. Do you recall that day?
I do.
Did you know Emma Walker?
I did.
How did you know Emma?
Just again through the football games and stuff. Just to see her as she was cheering. Yeah, like I said, my son played football, so we just kind of talked to her about it.
Okay. But you knew Mr. Gaul more than Miss Walker. Is
Yes.
that fair to say? So on the morning of the 21st of November, how did you become aware of Emma Walker's passing?
I had just gotten to work and I got a phone call from a mutual friend of mine and Riley's grandfather.
Okay. And based on that conversation, what was your intent or plan?
I really didn't have a plan or anything. When I hung up with him, I think.
What did he ask? What did your mutual friend ask you during that conversation? What did he tell you?
Oh, I'm sorry. All he told me was that Emma had died.
Okay. And what was your understanding of the cause of her death based on that conversation and things you knew?
Honestly, I don't even think we discussed how or anything. It was more of an assumption. We assumed that maybe Emma had taken her own life.
Okay. And so that's the assumption you were operating under this the whole morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at some point, do you have a conversation with Jim Walker that morning?
I do. He had contacted me approximately, it's maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes after I talked to our mutual friend.
Okay. And what was your concern at that point as far as Riley was concerned?
I knew he would be upset. It was just. I just knew he'd be upset.
Okay. So you knew that Riley and Emma Walker were a couple at some point and had been a couple?
I did, yes.
Okay. And in response to, after you talked to Mr. Walker, what was your understanding of what was going to happen next?
Actually, Mr. Walker had asked me, Mr. Walker had stated to me that he and his wife and daughter were going to Merritt College to let Riley know about what had happened.
Okay. And did he ask you, did he make any requests of you? What did he request?
He had asked, should he meet me? There was.
And who was that request made by?
Ashley, Riley's mother.
And what did she request that you do?
She had just come out there and said that Riley needed to speak to me again, or wanted to speak to me again.
Okay. And tell the members of the jury, when you go back in, what is it that Riley needed to speak to you about?
He had said, I'm not sure if this matters or not, but days prior to Emma's death, there was somebody dressed in all black, like messing around her house.
And how did you respond to that?
I thought that was a very odd thing to say.
Okay. How so?
And again, I was under the assumption that he knew that Emma was deceased. And again, we hadn't discussed how she had died. And again, I'm under the assumption that she had committed suicide. So that just...
Is that the common assumption among everybody there that you're talking to there at the household? I mean, was anybody else talking about the potential for a homicide here?
No, sir.
Okay. And so you felt that was odd.
I did.
What was his behavior like?
Again, just disconnected.
And so what did you do as a result of that conversation?
I'd gone back outside, spoke to Mr. Walker for a couple more minutes, and then I left.
Okay. And who did you call?
At the time, Lieutenant Gabe Mullinax was one of the supervisors for our major crime team.
Why would you call somebody in major crimes when you get out left there?
I had contacted him, asked him if they were working a suicide or some type of death of a young lady in the Starkey Hills subdivision.
Okay. And had you discussed with Riley the fact that the grandfather's gun is missing?
I did.
And what did he tell you about the missing gun?
Told me he didn't know where it was.
Okay. Did he admit any involvement in the taking of the gun?
No.
So as you leave the residence, you're aware of those two things. Number one, that he just told you that there's somebody creeping around her house and that there's still the missing gun. As an investigator, do you have some bells going off?
I do. Yes. Again, like I said, the statement he made to me I thought was very, very odd.
Okay. And when you leave, who do you call?
Lieutenant Gabe Mullinax.
And what do you inquire of Gabe Mullinax?
Again, I just asked him, if they were working a death or some type of call involving a young lady in Starkey Hills. And I think I did say suicide, working suicide. Lieutenant Mullinax kind of hesitated and said, "Well, it's not suicide."
And what did you ask him with regard to any facts about that case?
I said, "Gabe, please tell me there was not a gun involved."
And what did he tell you?
I object to what Gabe Mullinax says. He said that.
Past minutes.
Mr. Wise, I think we met this morning. Is that a fair statement?
We did, sir.
Good morning. The history that you had with Mr. Goll, you said it goes back to he was about 6 or 7 years old. Is that right?
Twice that, yeah.
Okay. And just let me back up before I get into that. You said you've been in law enforcement for how many years?
It's be 26 this year.
Okay. And how many years left do you have to retire?
Hopefully next.
So, in that time, you've testified numerous times throughout your law enforcement career. Okay. What did you do before you were in law enforcement?
Going to school a little bit, just working odd jobs, things like that.
So you've known Riley since he was in the 6 or 7 years old. Is that right? Is that what you said a minute ago?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the first year I started playing football.
Right. And so you knew him all the way up until today.
Okay.
And you would see him pretty regularly.
during sporting events and things of that nature. And so he's been to my house on
Right.
several occasions.
Spend the night over at your house?
He has.
Okay. No problems. And your relationship with Jim and Amy Walker was part of this Bobcat, Central Bobcat Nation thing. When you went over to Jim and Amy Walker's house, you described that he appeared disconnected.
Yes.
And you talked to Detective Merritt sometime after these events, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware that conversation you had with Mr. Merritt was recorded?
Yes.
And it would be fair to say that Riley had, when you first went in to see him, he was sitting on the couch
Yes.
and had a blank expression on his face.
Yes.
Had you seen that blank expression on his face at any time that you had ever known him?
Not that I can recall.
So would you say that that was out of character for him?
Possibly. Yes.
And you got the sense at that time that nobody had told Riley what had happened, right?
I knew he knew something, but I got the sense that they hadn't told him that she was dead.
Right. Maybe that she was injured or something to that effect.
Or something that happened.
You also thought that Riley was in shock, correct?
Possibly, yeah.
You recall telling Mr. Merritt that you believed he was in shock when you were visiting with him on the couch?
I probably did.
You believe he was in shock?
I don't know that to be just from past experience, from seeing other people, you know.
And I'm not talking about necessarily today, I'm talking about back on November 21st of 2016.
Did I believe he was in shock on?
Yeah, did he
November 1st?
appear as though he was in shock? Is that part of your description of being disconnected?
Yes.
And at that time when you're talking with him, you didn't believe he had anything to do with Emma's death?
I really didn't have nothing initially. But I just wasn't thinking of that.
Right, that would be the last thing you would think,
Correct.
that Riley had anything to do with Emma's death when you were visiting with him there,
Correct.
based on your description of disconnected, being in shock, blank expression,
Correct.
and everything else you knew about Riley.
Correct.
Okay. Then you told him that you didn't want anything to happen to him, right?
Yes.
You were concerned for his safety.
Correct.
Were you afraid he might harm himself?
I was.
You were?
Yes.
When you saw him on November 21st, he was crying,
Yes.
and I think you described his look also as a stoic look.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. You talked about Jim calling you on November the 21st, correct? Jim Walker?
Yes.
But he had not called you on November the 18th of 2016?
No.
Or on November 19th, 2016?
No, sir.
Or on November 20th, 2016?
No, sir.
And up until you talked to Riley that morning, you never thought Riley would ever do anything to hurt Emma,
I never had a reason to believe he would.
or anyone else for that matter. Just a moment, Your Honor.
Sir?
Wise, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anything else you read?
Isaac Ewers?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give in the hearing of this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Please be seated.
Go ahead and state your full name for the record and introduce yourself to the jury.
Isaac Ewers.
Mr. Ewers, you live here in Knox County,
Yes, sir.
and how old are you?
20. Just for 20.
Just turned 20. Do you recognize the fellow seated at the table over here in the white shirt?
I do.
And who is that?
William Riley Gaul.
Okay. Are you friends with Mr. Goll?
That was my best
How long have you known Mr. Goll?
since about second grade.
And did you go to school with him in addition to being friends with him?
I did.
Were you classmates at in the same grade?
Yes, sir.
You both graduated together from Central High School?
Yes, sir.
Were you become aware at some point in high school that Mr. Gaul has a girlfriend named Emma Walker?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're very familiar with their relationship.
Yes.
How would you characterize their relationship?
From which standpoint, Riley's or Ewers?
Just in general, from your friendship, looking at the relationship, how would you characterize it as?
Chaotic, hectic, high octane, high energy.
Did you think it was beneficial for Riley or Emma?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you voice that opinion on occasions to Riley?
Multiple times.
What was Riley's issues with Emma that you would talk with him about? I mean, how would you characterize him in his relationship with Emma?
Controlling. It was a possessive thing.
Okay.
I would often hear him say, whenever a split would happen, she's not mine. I can't believe it.
And as part of the relationship that he had with Emma, did you become aware at least that her parents were not approving of that relationship?
Yes, very well.
Okay. And how well do you know Sturkey Hill subdivision?
Extremely.
Okay. Do you live there?
No, sir.
But why is it that you know Sturkey so well?
I spend a lot of days at the pool. A lot of my very good friends live in there. My girlfriend lives there.
Okay. And you went to Central too, so these are all Central Bobcat students that
Yes,
live
yeah, all
Sturkey?
my peers, all my friends, yes.
Okay. And so you told the jury you became aware that the Walkers were not wanting their daughter around Riley. You knew that?
Yes, yeah, from very early on.
Okay. But were you aware of whether or not Riley was continuing to contact and go around Emma?
He did.
And did you assist in that on occasion?
I did.
Okay. And how so?
I would let Riley borrow my phone. I would let him text him opposing to me. Text whoever he needed to text. He would delete the text. I never saw them. I would console him whenever he was upset. Riley came to me for pretty much everything.
Okay. And with regard to Sturkey going into the neighborhood, did you become aware at any point that he was seeing Emma without her parents' knowledge?
Yes, sir.
And was that based on conversations with Riley?
Yes, sir. Yeah. He
Okay.
would talk to me about sneaking into their house, sneaking out of their house, knowing when they would be home, knowing when they wouldn't be home.
Okay. And when he would sneak into their house, how would he get to Sturkey?
I suppose it depends on what it was or what he could avoid anybody seeing him. Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
How would he go to Sturkey?
Like I said, it depends on where he parked that day, where he needed to park to make sure that it wasn't seen, whether it was the pool or one of us dropped him off or whatever it may be.
Okay. So Riley had his own car?
Yes, sir.
Did he have that from the time he was 16 on, or?
I believe so.
Okay. And you mentioned he would park in different places. Where would Riley park to go undetected there in Sturkey?
The pool, the tennis courts, the church, and whatever he needs to for walking distance.
Mr. Ewers, if I could ask you to stand down and take a look at exhibit number 1 and orient yourself there and tell us, looking at exhibit number 1, if you recognize what that is.
Where is
Do you know the street names in Turkey?
Not by name, sir. Location.
Okay. Do you recognize this as Turkey Hill subdivision?
Yes, yeah, pardon me.
Okay. And you recognize the different areas, obviously down in here, recreation areas of Turkey?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned that the tennis courts and the pool, that you've been to the pool before, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you recognize the pool area down here, at the bottom along?
Yes, sir.
Object to leading.
Do you know where the pool and
Yes.
recreation area that you call the tennis courts is in relation to the pool?
Yes, sir.
Point that out for the majority.
This is the pool, this is the actual reservoir, access to surgeon.
Okay. We couldn't hear you. Could you describe that again, if you would?
This is the pool, this is the trail that goes behind the pool. This lets anybody that parks on this side can walk right into Turkey. It's a huge paved trail.
Okay. And so those are some of the areas that he would park with, I see.
Yes, sir.
And you said he would sneak into her house. How did he tell you that he would get to her, or sneak into her house?
The window,
What window?
I'm not sure which one, I suppose there was many occasions.
Okay. And you also said that you would take part and that you would go over and drop him off on occasion in this effort to see him?
No, sir, not personally.
Okay. You mentioned that he'd park at the pool, sometime at the tennis courts, and then another place. You mentioned, what was the other place?
One place that I believe he parked was what I know as the shack. It's essentially an empty building, also located just down the path that connects the pool that I pointed out earlier. Basically, all three run along the same path.
And what was the reason he provided to you that he was parking at those various different locations?
He wasn't allowed to see everyone, and that was, everyone was aware of that, I'm pretty sure, so we had to find a way around it.
Okay. Her friends and his friends?
Yes, sir, everyone was aware of it.
Okay. I'm going to turn your attention, if I could, to Friday night. We're talking about the weekend that Emma died. You remember that weekend?
Yes, sir.
And as a matter of fact, shortly after Emma died, you spoke with the police,
Yes, sir.
and you told them what you knew about what had happened over the weekend.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Turning your attention to Friday night, you recall that there was a football game. Did you still, at that point in November of 16, follow the Bobcats?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you know there was a football game that night?
I did not.
Okay. But at some point, you go to a residence that you mutually kind of congregate at.
Yes, sir.
Tell the members of the jury who is the mutual friend whose house is it that you guys congregate at?
Noah Walton.
Okay, why is it that Noah Walton is a place that you guys go to and hang out at?
Noah's parents, yeah, he lives alone, so we would often go over there. It was a place that we could all hang out, be ourselves, do whatever we wanted.
Okay, and at this point, you're a freshman, essentially a freshman in college.
Yes, sir.
Noah, your same age,
Yes, sir.
same grade,
Yes, sir.
and any other friends that would hang out there?
Alex McCarty frequented there.
And
And
is-
Alex, Noah, and Riley all frequented there.
Okay, and so is Alex the same grade as you?
Yes, sir.
And all of you were Central Bobcat graduates?
Yes.
And all of you were basically freshmen then at this point?
Yes, sir.
Where are you going to school now? Or where were you going to school then?
University of Tennessee.
Okay. And Noah,
University of Tennessee.
both of you were there your first semester?
Yes, sir.
And how about Alex?
I believe he was at Mississippi State.
Okay, so in November of that year, where were Noah's parents?
They had moved. Noah's dad had taken a job offer in one of the Carolinas.
Okay. Do you remember the name of the street that Noah lives on?
I do not. I just know that it's right beside it there.
Okay.
I can't remember the name.
You know how to get there, but you don't know the street?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so, did you, on that Friday night, did you have an occasion to go to Noah's house?
I did. I was there, yes.
About what time did you arrive at Noah's?
12:30.
After midnight?
Yes, sir. Yes, it was dark.
Is that unusual for you guys to congregate and hang out after midnight?
Not at all. We would link up anytime of the night, anytime of the day. It didn't really matter usually.
The good thing about, I have no parents there, right?
Right.
All right.
Yes, sir.
And so, what do you guys do in terms of activities there? What do you engage in there at Noah's house?
We shoot pool, play video games, watch movies.
Okay, and is Riley part of this crew that goes over there? You mentioned Noah, Alex, and yourself. And so primarily the people that go to the house, who are they?
Primarily the four of us. Me, Alex, Noah, and Riley.
Okay. And you said you play video games.
Yes, sir.
What video games is it? What video game do you play?
We play a lot of, I can't remember the name of it. We rent their cars. It's like a battle game. Can't remember the name. Call of Duty. We played zombies, Halo. You name it. It was an assortment of games.
Okay.
One in particular.
How about Riley? Did he have a favorite game?
Yeah. Definitely Riley was a Call of Duty fan.
Okay.
Through and through.
Modern Warfare.
Yes.
And
All of them. It didn't matter.
what is that? What is Call of Duty? That series of video games. What's it all about?
They're online shooters.
Okay.
Multiplayer shooters.
And when you are an online shooter, describe, if you would, the types of instruments that you use to shoot in the game.
There's a variety of guns, knives, weapons that you use. It depends on the game.
Okay. And with regard to the guns, how specific does the game get with regard to the type and caliber and whether or not it's an automatic, semi-automatic?
They're taken from real guns in real life.
Okay. And so are those guns in the game kept in a particular place? I mean, you know what guns you have?
Yeah, you can see your array of guns around 40 go in the game.
Okay. And in the game, do you have to also operate the guns?
Yes,
All right. Do you have to reload them?
yeah.
If it's a
There
semi-automatic?
are animations for reloading, cocking the gun, everything. It's all animated in the game that shows for you.
Okay. And that's Riley's favorite game?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. So on that Friday night, you said you arrived around midnight. Was Riley Goll there?
No, sir.
Who was present when you arrived?
Noah Walton and Kendall Whitaker.
Okay. And when, at some point after midnight, after you arrive, do you receive information or do you get a call, you folks get a call from Riley?
Yes, sir.
And what was the nature of the call? What was he saying?
It was very scattered, very hectic. There wasn't a whole lot of information. He just called essentially saying that he had been kidnapped. He had no idea where he was at. He didn't know what he was going to do. He dropped the name Tazewell Pike in the call.
Okay. And did you guys ask him to geolocate him or?
Yes, yeah. We said, where are you at? We'll come and get you. It doesn't matter. We weren't believing any of it, essentially. We knew that this was not really a kidnapping, but
You were going along with it?
no, sir. We told Riley that we were coming to drive up and down Tazewell Pike until we were able to find him, because we knew it wasn't true.
But he was insisting that it was true?
Up until the point we told him that we were coming to drive up and down Tazewell Pike, at which point he hung up the phone.
Okay. And so what did you do?
We put on our shoes, and within 10 minutes we were driving down the road, and that's when Riley pulled up in his car. Less than 10 minutes. I mean, we hung up the phone, put on shoes, walked downstairs, got in the car, and Riley pulled up.
Okay. So is he coming from the direction of Tazewell Pike?
Noah Street is a dead end, so I can't say he was coming from that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so you're on your way to Tazewell Pike. He shows up there in his car?
In his car, yeah. We were not even 5 feet from Noah's driveway. We hadn't even made it fully out of the driveway. I'm sure the back of the car was still in the driveway as Riley pulled up.
Okay. And so who's in your car, in the car with you?
I was in the shotgun, Noah was driver, and Kendall was in the backseat.
All right. And so when Riley pulls up, do you guys abandon obviously, your search for him, right?
Yeah, at first we were shocked because we just heard that he had been kidnapped less than 10 minutes ago and he didn't know where he was at. And suddenly he pulls up in a car saying, "Oh, my head hurts. I'll explain everything when we get inside. Let's just go inside. Let's go inside." And we insist, "No, we can talk right here. If you're in danger, we need to go and get help, talk to the police, whoever we need to talk to make sure these people don't pursue you."
Okay. And what happens when you get inside?
Riley proceeds to tell us that he doesn't remember anything and that he was hit over the head, and he asked us to feel this knot on his head.
Okay. Does he tell you where he got kidnapped?
No, sir.
Does he tell you who he got kidnapped by?
No, sir.
Does he tell you any details of the kidnapping?
No.
Does he tell you that he'd been to see Emma?
No, sir.
Does he give you any information about this kidnapping
No, sir.
other than he was kidnapped?
No.
And whose phone was Riley using when he called you to tell you that he'd been kidnapped?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And so, how did you guys respond to that?
We had already known this was a bit. We just kept pressing him. Who is it? What were they? What happened? Because obviously we're terrified for him. If this man's been kidnapped, that's my best friend. I don't want any harm to come to him. So we press him until he just sticks with, "I don't remember." And at that point it was, "I don't remember," over and over and over until we dropped the issue.
Okay. So eventually it just faded away, that he'd been kidnapped?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you never called police or anything like that, right?
No, sir. We knew it wasn't a real thing.
Okay. Did you spend the night that night, Friday night?
I did not.
Did Riley spend the night, if you know?
I don't think so. I left before he did.
What time did you leave?
2:30, 3 a.m. That was pretty typical.
Okay.
3 a.m. was about window.
And when was the next time? Obviously, the next day would be the Saturday. When was the next time that you saw Noah or Riley?
I believe I got over to Noah's around 7:30, 7 o'clock.
Is this Saturday night?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Saturday night, who all convenes there at Noah's?
The same people. Me, Noah, Walton, Alex, Kendall, Riley.
Okay. And at some point, does Riley leave to go to a convenience store with anybody?
Yes, sir. I was not told that he was going to the convenience store. Instead, he asked me to step out and speak with him about something, and I declined. I was still upset with him for essentially telling us that he got kidnapped, so I didn't want any part of it. Alex was not there the night before, and Alex stepped out with him. He agreed to step out and talk with him. It was very commonplace.
Isaac, is that the nature of your relationship with Riley, that you would call him out on things and you guys get mad at each other but then call it off?
Yes, I felt the closest to Riley, so when Alex and Noah didn't want to confront him, I was always the one of the three of us to call him out for whatever he was picking up.
Okay. And you do know that he went to the store with Alex?
Yes, sir. That was the one.
And when they got back,
What Alex told him, Judge, seriously.
Go ahead and ask a question. I don't know what you're going to ask yet.
when they got back, did you speak to Alex?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And based on that conversation with Alex, did you say anything to Riley?
I did not, no.
Not that night?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not that night, yes.
Okay, I'm going to turn your attention then again to the next night, Sunday night. Do you spend the night Saturday night there at Noah's?
I did not.
Okay, and the next time you all get together is Sunday night?
Yes, sir.
About what time do you think you got together Sunday night at Noah's?
I think I got there around 10 o'clock. Me and Noah were doing homework for the upcoming Monday.
Okay. And was Riley there when you got there?
I don't believe so. I believe that it was just me and Noah when we got there initially to the homework.
At some point, does Riley join you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is Riley saying that he's doing that night?
He was very adamant that he was writing a paper.
Okay. And did he have a laptop with him or anything to write a paper with?
No, sir. We offered to let him write the paper there, but he said that he needed to be in Marable in his dorm to write the paper.
Okay. And so Sunday night, the night that Emma died, when was the last time you saw Riley?
11:30 to 11, around there.
Okay.
Right before I went back home and went to school.
Okay. And where did Riley tell you he was going to?
Back to school. Back to his room in Marable.
To write the paper.
Yes, sir.
And were you there when he left?
Yes, sir. I believe we left around the same time.
Okay. Did you receive any phone calls or communication from Riley that night?
Yes. He was wanting to come back over to Noah's, but I had already gone home for the night.
Okay. Tell us about, do you know about what time you received that communication from?
12:30 or so is when he was wanting to come back over.
Okay. And you guys had wrapped things up, you said?
Yes.
So-
yeah, we had already called it a night.
Okay. And you had gone home?
Yes, sir.
And you obviously, when did you learn of Emma's passing?
The following morning,
Okay.
at around 7:30.
And did you reach out to Riley?
I did. He was the first person I contacted.
And when was it that you first saw Riley after Emma died?
I did not see Riley after that. He had asked me to come over, but I declined.
Okay. And why did you decline?
Because I knew that he had a hand in what.
I'll object, cause for speculation, Judge. Found out.
Tell us why you knew that. Let me back you up a little bit. Based on your conversation that you had with Alex after Alex came to go home from the pilot, did you at one point confront Riley with whatever information you received from Alex?
Yes, sir.
And what did you confront Riley with?
That he needed to turn himself in if he was really innocent, and if he was innocent, the system would show.
Okay.
And he declined.
And because what was Riley trying to get you to do?
To get rid of everything that he had, the weapon.
Okay. And how did you respond when he was wanting to get rid of the gun? What actually happened between you and Riley?
I was infuriated. I couldn't believe that he believed that he could get rid of the weapon as a means of proving innocence instead of just coming to the court system or coming to the authorities. Because I knew that if he truly was innocent, the court system would show it, and I heard enough from Riley to know how it operates.
And when did that confrontation take place?
I'm about to say in the middle of the day. It was a pretty hectic day.
The day Emma died?
Yes, sir.
And how emotional or heated was that conversation that you had with him?
Very emotional. That was my brother.
And what were you advising him to do?
Turn himself in. There was no question. He was innocent. He was innocent.
Okay. And more importantly, turn what in?
The way that we knew that he had, after the kidnapping, I had known where this was going.
After the kidnapping, you knew where this was heading?
Yeah, the demeanor of the lies had gone to the next level. That was bold-faced lying to us over and over and over, and not letting us in or not letting me in was something foreign to me. Maybe to Alex and Noah, but that was not the Riley that I was accustomed to.
Do you know whether he was arrested with the gun?
I believe so, yes.
Pass this.
cross-examination.
Mr. Moncrief?
You just testified that after the kidnapping, you knew where this was heading? That's what you just said, Mr. Ewers.
Yes, sir. I did say that.
We've not met before, have we?
No, sir.
My name's Wesley Stone. I represent Riley. So the kidnapping events are what we know as November the 18th, correct? That's that Friday.
Yes, sir.
That's what you've testified to here.
Yes, sir.
And then Saturday, you say you knew Riley would get a gun from the kidnapping incident.
No, I didn't say that I knew he would get a gun from the kidnapping incident.
Okay, you said you knew where this was heading after the kidnapping incident.
Yes.
Okay.
After I learned the information that I learned after this all went down.
Yeah, okay. Well, you said after the kidnapping you knew where this was heading. Where did you think this was heading after the kidnapping incident?
Towards a peak of violence of some kind. I mean, exposition. It was building.
So you knew on November the 18th that there was going to be some violence. Is that what you're saying, or is this what you put together after you talked to Riley a couple of times? I'm just trying to figure out when you had this idea of after the kidnapping you knew where this was heading.
Yes.
Okay. Was it after everything came out, after Emma passed, after you talked to Riley, that you looked back now and said that's where this was heading? Or was it on November the 18th?
Yes, sir, that specific result, when I said I knew where this was headed.
Yes, sir.
To a level of violence.
Okay. But you didn't think there was a level of violence or anything as it relates to Riley prior to November the 18th?
I did.
You did know that?
Yes.
To himself?
To himself and to others.
Okay. You knew that he was going to be a threat to other people?
Potentially.
Okay. And you found out on November the 19th that he had a gun?
I did.
But you didn't know he had a gun on the 18th
I did not.
or any day before that?
I did not.
And your testimony is that you believe that this was going to lead to violence. You find out that Riley's got a gun. You didn't contact law enforcement, did you?
No, sir.
You didn't contact Jim Walker, did you?
I did not want to get my friend in trouble, sir. I have dealt with this myself in the past. I'd always been the one that Riley came to with crime. So I wanted to keep this between us. I did not want to involve the authorities.
You didn't say, hey man, I know you got a gun, let me have it?
I did. That was what I just told him.
Yeah. I'm talking about on November the 19th when you found out he had a
He had
gun.
already left for the night.
I understand. But you knew where he lived. You had his cell phone number, right?
Yes, sir.
You knew he was been suicidal, right?
Supposedly.
Okay. You knew Emma had been suicidal.
Supposedly.
Okay. That's what you told the authorities when you interviewed with them, that they had gone back and forth and both of them had been suicidal.
I guess I should clarify that I believe Riley's side of it to not be true.
You didn't believe it at the time?
No, sir. When he told me that he attempted to commit suicide, one time when I picked him up and he said that it was hydrocodone, but I sat with him and he was absolutely stone cold sober. There was no trace of any kind of hydrocodone or anything.
You'd never seen him take hydrocodone before?
No, sir, not that I can recall.
Right. So you didn't know what effect hydrocodone or the number of hydrocodones would have on him?
No, sir.
So you know on November the 19th that Riley's got a gun, right?
Yes.
That's a Saturday.
Well, it would have been AM. It would have actually been Sunday. but
Okay,
it was-
November 20th then.
Yes.
You didn't alert anybody to him having this gun?
No, sir.
Alex didn't alert anybody to him having this gun?
No, sir. Like I said, we've contained issues like this within our group before, so we wanted to do the same.
And Noah didn't tell anybody he had a gun?
No, sir.
Do you think that's a responsible act on your all's part?
Sir, there was a lot of emotion involved. I'm not quite sure responsible fits the category.
You think it's irresponsible of what you all didn't do? at that point?
No, sir, I don't believe it to be irresponsible. I believe it to be concerned
And the concern was what?
about everybody's safety, everybody's security.
So you're telling this jury that you all were concerned about everybody's safety, but you did nothing to prevent anything?
I wouldn't say that we did nothing. I would say that we didn't contact the authorities.
So
To say
what,
that we did nothing would be an understatement.
so what did you all do to prevent it? Anything?
Dr. Riley. Riley was upset. Riley was crying. We don't want to push him. I've seen him lash out before.
You talked to Riley after Emma passed away about the gun. That's when you confronted him.
Yes, sir.
You didn't talk to him on the 20th, the Sunday.
I spoke with him many times on the 20th. We didn't work together.
You didn't talk to him about knowing he had a gun.
No, sir. That was believed to be, Riley believed that to be confidential between him and Alex, so we wanted to keep that illusion up.
But you're his best friend, I thought.
I am his best friend. Was his best friend.
And I thought you said you consulted with him a lot and counseled him a lot throughout the years.
I did. All the time. Through all of the breakups.
Through all the breakups of him and Riley, or him and Emma?
No, I've been Riley's friend since second grade.
Oh, what
Since
break?
his first grade.
I'm sorry, what breakups? Did you say breakups? You counseled him through all the breakups?
Yes.
What breakups?
Bonnie, Emma, yeah.
Okay. And so you knew him and Emma to have dated for 2 years?
Yes, sir.
And you had met Emma?
Many times.
She had strong feelings for Riley,
Yes, sir.
and he had strong feelings for her.
Yes, sir.
If do you know Jill Walker? Did you know her before November 18th, 2016?
I did.
You didn't talk to Jill Walker on November the 18th of 2016?
No, sir.
November 19th, 2016?
No, sir.
November 20th?
No, sir.
You testified that you knew where Riley parked in Sturkey. Is that right?
Yes.
You never saw him park at these places you've described?
No, I would never accompany him to his house. I mean, he had told me stories.
And you would agree with me that, based on your understanding of their relationship, that Riley going over and seeing Emma was with Emma's consent on those times where they would go over and into the window, what you're talking about.
On those specific incidences, yes.
And you said that Riley would continue to contact Emma when they would, I guess, break up?
Yes, sir.
And you would agree with me that Emma would continue to contact Riley as well?
Not all the time. No, it was very one-sided.
You think it was very one-sided?
No, it was very one-sided.
She told you that?
I saw it. Riley would sit at my house and play video games, and he would call Emma and let the phone sit in his lap while it rang. And as soon as it ended, he would call her back again, not even looking at the phone.
I think that's what you call spamming. Is that what you call spamming?
Yes, sir.
Send 100 texts at a time,
Yes, sir.
call her a bunch,
Yes, sir.
but you're not aware of all the times she tried to contact Riley.
No, sir.
You're not aware of the times that she had another iPod in her room and she would secretly contact Riley on it.
No, sir.
You're not aware that Mark Walker found that and took it away from her.
No, sir.
When Emma and Riley started dating, you would agree that he was 16?
Sir, I'm not sure when they began dating officially.
You know how old she was?
I do not, like I said, I'm not sure when you're considering dating.
Yeah, there's a lot of different degrees of relationships, isn't there, Mr. Ewers?
Yes, sir.
And Emma and Riley's relationship was on and off.
A few times, yes.
How many's a few?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure what a few means to you?
I'm not sure what we would consider a few, or what you're even considering a breakup.
I'm just saying it's been described as an on and off relationship, and I'm just asking you if you knew how many times it was on and off.
Fully on or fully off, I'm not sure what you're asking me.
So you have no idea.
I do have an idea. The question is not, I'm not understanding the question.
How many times, to your recollection, were they on and off?
To what degree? To fully talking, not fully talking? I mean, they would have broken up, but they would still be in contact.
Right.
And sometimes they would break up and they wouldn't be in contact.
And then they would have contact and they get back together, right?
Yes.
Then that was very characteristic of their relationship.
I would not say this was an everyday thing.
I'm not saying it's every day, but it was a characteristic of their relationship over a 2-year period. You'd agree with that?
No, I don't think it was a characteristic, but it happened a few times.
If some of her closest friends, if Emma's closest friends disagreed with you, would you have any reason to believe them to be lying?
Could you repeat that?
Yes. If some of Emma's closest friends described Emma and Riley's relationship as being on and they're communicating and talking, and then off and they're communicating and talking, and then back on and communicating and talking over a period of 2 years, would you disagree with their characterization of that?
No, I would not.
They would have better information than you would have on that, correct?
Maybe.
They're in more contact with Emma than you are.
With him, yes, but with Riley.
I understand. What is the gaming system over at Noah's? What is that, a PlayStation 4?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Okay. And you're 20 now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you hunt or fish?
No, sir.
You own a firearm?
No, sir.
You ever shot a firearm?
No, sir. Yes, sir.
What kind of firearm have you shot?
It's been a long time. I can't quite remember. It would be back in Boy Scouts.
Long gun?
Yes, it was a rifle.
Nothing other than a rifle?
No, sir, not that I can remember.
You would agree with me that PlayStation 4s and playing Calls of Duty, they don't have like an actual Call of Duty. Okay. Call of Duty, that they don't have an actual, it's just a game, like a handheld game that you play. I mean, you don't have actual, like a gun, a device that looks like a gun, right?
You have a controller which controls your character who is holding a gun, yes.
Right.
From the first person perspective.
But it's not like something that is in the shape of, you're not actually physically holding something in the shape of a gun, right?
No, sir. You're holding a controller.
Right. And that's, these other games you described, that's how you play Halo and some of these other games with that controller.
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to ask you, if you could, I don't know, I think you're plugged in, Kevin. Can you unplug that, please? I'm unplugged, yes. Mr. Ewers, do you see these different PlayStation 4s listed on the wall here? Do you see those, or in the screen that you have at your table?
And is that the type of, is there any one in there that actually looks like the console that you would play these different games over at Noah's?
Yes, sir.
Which one? There's an arrow there that if you can touch the screen, it'll put right on which one it is.
There's the majority of them are correct.
Well, let's do this. Is this one right here?
Yes, sir.
And so this device here, you hold it with both hands,
Yes, sir.
and you use your thumbs to control these controllers here and these buttons on top.
Yes, sir.
And then there are probably some buttons on the front of this controller that you use your fingers for, right?
Yes, sir.
And that is a PlayStation, that would be a PlayStation 4.
Yes.
This device right here is the actual console where you put your DVD or CD in, correct? This part over here, this big square. Make this the next exhibit. And 34, Mr. Year, just so it's clear, is the same thing we've been looking at on the screen, correct? And that would be consistent with the gaming device over at Nova's that you all play games.
Yes.
We've had it evidence.
No, Your Honor.
Very well, let it be received.
When you were interviewed by law enforcement on November 21st, 2016, you told them that Riley struggled with suicide. You told them that.
Yes.
You thought that was important to tell them that?
Yes.
But you did not tell them that at that time you knew Riley had a gun.
I did.
You did tell them that.
Yes, sir.
So it was important to tell them about the gun on November 21st.
Yes.
And it was important to tell them on November 21st about him struggling with suicide.
Yes.
You also told them that Emma and Riley had what you said as a pretty crazy relationship.
Yes.
You agree that it was a pretty crazy relationship?
Yes.
You also told law enforcement that there had been no trust in the relationship, right?
Yes.
Emma didn't trust Riley.
Yes.
Riley didn't trust Emma.
No, I don't know if that one is true. I can only speak from Riley's side. Like I said, I consulted Riley, I didn't consult him.
So you knew there were trust issues at least one way.
Yes.
Emma didn't trust Riley.
I think that's asked and answered. He can only answer from Riley's perspective. He just answered, Judge.
And I may have missed it. I may have missed. Were you saying Riley didn't trust Emma or Emma didn't trust Riley? And I'm sorry, I just.
Right. I would definitely say that Emma did not trust Riley. Riley was constantly having to root for him.
I'm sorry, constantly had to do what, Mr. Ewers?
To prove where he was at.
With Emma, he was having to prove to Emma where he was at.
Yes, sir.
And he would do that by sending her his locations?
No, more often than not, he would have me text her, which was often falsified as well.
She wanted to know where he was.
Yes, sir. Even if he wasn't there.
And that was typical of the relationship? That another characteristic of their relationship?
I don't know if I would call it a characteristic, but it happened.
How many times, do you know?
I cannot recall a specific number.
Were you aware that between between December of 2015 through sometime in the early to middle part of October of 2016 that Jill and Mark Walker allowed Riley to come over to their house to see Emma on a weekly basis?
Could you repeat that?
Are you aware that between December of 2015 through October of 2016 that Jill and Mark Walker would permit Emma to come over to their house to see, would permit Riley to come over to their house to see Emma on about a weekly basis?
Yes.
You were aware of that?
I was aware that there were limits on them seeing each other.
Riley was not doing well in October, was he, of 2016?
I don't even know how to answer that. What do you mean, football, school, social life? What
Do you recall him losing any weight?
Riley was extremely fit.
Okay. You don't recall him losing any weight?
Riley was always fit. I don't keep track of his weight.
You didn't have any concerns for him in October of 2016? For his health, safety, well-being, anything like that?
No, sir, not that I can recall.
What about in November of 2016?
No, sir. I don't recall any specific incident.
So as far as you know, he was perfectly fine from his junior year in high school all the way up until these events?
No, sir.
He was not perfectly fine?
No, sir. From October, in October, yes.
Okay.
Prior to that. There were all sorts of,
I'm sorry, you kind of trailed off there, Isaac.
there were issues. This is a 16-year-old kid,
16-year-old kid?
whatever, yes.
When you're talking about October, are you talking about October of 2016?
That was the one you were asking about, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So he was not fine in October of 2016. I'm just trying to
That's
understand.
not what I said. I said, I believe things you have been fine in October.
Okay.
Apart from him and Emma going at it, of course. Or said,
She would go at it with him.
no, he would go ahead with her.
You've not seen all the text messages that they had throughout their relationship?
I've seen some of it, yes.
Not all of them.
Of course not.
Why did you not confront Riley when you found out or had the reason to believe he had a firearm?
Repeat the question.
Why did you not confront him? You said you were always the one that confronted him about stuff, and you confronted him about the kidnapping. And when Alex and Noah didn't want to confront him about something, you'd be the one to confront him. You didn't confront him about knowing he had a gun. Why not?
I suppose because we were nervous or I was scared.
You were nervous and scared.
Yes. While I was in I would say, delicate state, I didn't want to push them together.
You said after you learned of Emma's passing, you contacted Riley
Yes.
by telephone or by text?
Um,
Why did you do that?
Pardon?
Why did you contact Riley after you learned of Emma's passing? What I understood your testimony was, and let me just put it in context, is that after you learned of Emma's passing, you reached out to Riley, and then later you talked to law enforcement.
Yes.
Okay, so why did you reach out to Riley after you learned of Emma's passing?
Because that was my best friend.
Well, what was your purpose in reaching out to your best friend
To get him to turn in the firearm.
at that point?
Yes.
You didn't call him to console him?
No. I called him to console him earlier in the day. Like I said,
That's the part I'm talking about. The part where you called him to console him earlier in the day.
yeah, there are multiple phones.
Yes, I understand. So you reached out to your best friend to console him that morning on November 21st of 2016.
Yes, sir.
You didn't believe he had anything to do with Emma's death at that point.
I didn't say that.
So you say you did believe that.
As soon as I heard the news, I believed Riley to be the person. That doesn't mean that I have a 100% knowing. Obviously, I didn't have to believe that my brother could have done anything like this.
And you know that the news reported it, sort of came out, and you know that there was some, I don't know if it was news, but maybe rumors that it
I
was,
heard anything on the news.
you didn't know how she had passed.
No, sir.
You didn't know that there was allegations that maybe she might have taken her own life.
I heard that, but you said it was an allegation. I'd like to keep a clear mind.
You want to keep a clear mind?
Yes.
Smoke truck. Thank you, Mr. Ewers.
Call Alex McCarty.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give in the hearing of this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and state your full name for the record, if you would.
James Alexander McCarty,
How old are you, Mr. McCarty?
20 years old.
Did you go to high school here locally?
Yes.
What high school did you go to?
Central High School.
What year did you graduate?
2016.
And you recognize the fellow seated over here in the white shirt?
Yes, sir.
Who is that?
William Riley Goll.
And who is he to you?
Used to be my friend from high school
Okay. How long have you known Riley Gaul?
since middle school, since I moved in high school.
Okay. You said he used to be your friend?
Yeah, circumstances changed.
Come on up a little bit closer, or pull that microphone a little bit closer.
Yes, sir.
You said that you've known him since middle school?
Mhm.
And what would you characterize your relationship to be from middle school through, let's say, November of 2016?
We weren't always as close as we were towards the end, but we've always been pretty good friends.
Okay. Towards the end of high school?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you all graduated, did you graduate together?
No, I ended up graduating from private school.
Okay. But did you continue your friendship with Riley?
Yes.
And were you aware when he went away to college?
Yes.
And where did he go to college?
And college.
Did you continue your relationship with him or contact with him?
Yeah.
what was the nature of your relationship in the fall of 2016 when Riley was at Maryville, or that summer? What
He
was
was
it?
one of my closest friends.
And when you say closest friends, do you have a group of friends that you hang out with?
Yes, sir.
And who are in your closest group of friends?
Plus I know Walton, Isaac Ewers, the brothers,
And Riley.
and Riley is.
And where is it that you fellows would convene in terms of your friendship? Where would you get together?
Places, go see Noah Walton's house.
Okay. Is there a reason you guys would convene at Noah's house?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
Cool place.
Were Noah's parents around?
Not all the time.
Okay.
But, yeah.
But eventually, do Noah's parents move out in
Yes.
2016?
Yeah, I do. That's cool, yeah.
Okay. So when you guys are freshmen or when you're starting college and he's in Maryville, do Noah's parents live there?
No.
So does that become the natural habitat or place you guys hang out?
Whatever, yeah.
And you can play games all night or Xbox or whatever you want to do, shoot pool?
Yeah.
All right. And how often do you convene there at Noah's house in the fall of 16?
Multiple times a week.
Okay. And are you working or are you going to school at this time, in the fall of 2016?
Then I was in school.
Okay. What private school did you graduate from?
West End Academy.
Okay. And where were you in school in the fall of 2016?
LCB.
And you were aware, obviously, that Riley was at Maryville. What about Noah and Isaac? What school were they enrolled in, if you know?
Noah was at UT for sure. I think Isaac was at UT at the same time.
Okay. And so you became at some point aware that Riley had a girlfriend that was still in high school?
Yeah.
And what was her name?
Emma Walker.
Okay. Did you know Emma?
Not personally, just through Riley.
Okay. How often have you seen Emma?
I met her probably twice, maybe 2 times.
Okay. And so you didn't know her very well at all?
Yes, sir.
Just know her to see her?
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
But had you, in the past, rather in the fall of 16, had you talked to Riley about his relationship with her?
Yeah, as it was kind of reaching its conclusion.
Okay. Tell us the nature of your relationship with Riley. You've talked about Isaac, Noah, you, and Riley being close friends. In terms of your role with Riley, would you take a confrontational role with him in things that happened, or would you take a supportive role in things with him that happened?
Very supportive. I mean, I knew he was struggling with a lot of stuff. He always seemed like distressed a lot, depressed.
Okay. And with regard to Noah, would Noah take a confrontational role with him or a supportive role with him?
I think did both, for sure.
Okay.
He's more confrontational for me, definitely.
And how about Isaac?
The most confrontational, for sure.
Okay, so Isaac would be the one that would confront, and you would be the one that you would never confront him with stuff?
Yeah, I just think he's for sure.
You would say that that's accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in the fall of 2016, you said that you knew their relationship was coming to an end?
Yes.
How did you know that?
From what I was told from Riley and just like Noah and Isaac, who had more information from their friends and stuff.
Okay. And you recall the weekend that Emma died?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have opportunity that weekend to hang out with Riley?
Yeah, almost every day.
And did you know that Riley played football at Maryville College?
Yes.
And you knew the football season was over at that point? Okay. How much contact did you have with him during football season?
See that?
Still come around? Where would you guys convene at while he was at Maryville College?
I mean, I saw him at his dorm multiple times. Mostly in Noah's house.
Okay. So you would actually travel to Maryville to hang out with Riley?
Yeah.
When you go to Noah's house and you're playing games, what typical game does Riley play?
I don't think Call of Duty, different games.
Okay. And Call of Duty is a first-person shooter game?
Yeah.
Objectively,
What kind of game is Call of Duty?
First-person shooter game.
And when you all got together Friday night, and referencing you back to the weekend, that Emma died the Friday before. Do you remember the day of the week that Emma died? That you got the news?
Monday morning, Sunday night.
Okay. And so that Friday night, did you have an opportunity to go to Noah's house?
I had option. I wasn't there Friday night.
Okay. Do you, were you made aware, did you speak with Riley at all Friday night?
No.
Okay. At what point is it that weekend that you first see Riley?
Saturday night.
Okay. Did you, without saying what they said, but did you speak with Noah and Isaac about what had happened with Riley Friday night?
Yes.
Okay.
Before I talked to Riley.
All right. And at some point on Saturday, do you have a conversation with Riley?
Yeah, while we were all hanging out, I noticed he was kind of off to himself and like being kind of distant and whatever. He got kind of muggy, that way I describe it. Like he kind of just wanted to talk or whatever. And like was kind of off in the corner, so I kind of pulled him away to get a second for him to explain what happened Friday.
Okay. And what did he explain to you?
About the kidnapping.
What did he say?
That he thought people were after him and him up. And that how he was kidnapped and dropped his head in his yard. And how he stole his gun from his grandfather.
Okay. What were you thinking in your mind about this story?
I didn't believe it to be true for sure, but I thought Riley was suicidal first, so like I didn't want to just call him out and make him upset. So I just kind of listened to him, told him I was like there for him and stuff, and I talked to him just about, I don't know, where he's in life and where he could go.
Okay. And so he told you, you just said that he thought people were after him and Emma.
Yes, sir.
Did he explain or offer a reason why these people would be after him or Emma?
No.
Okay. And at some point, do you leave the residence with Riley?
Yes, during our whole conversation, that's how I pulled him aside, was I asked him if like, he would give me a ride to the store.
I understand. This conversation's in the car, actually in the car?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach? What I'm handing you has been marked for identification as exhibit number 35. I believe that's a series of photographs, surveillance photographs, if you could tell us what that is.
Is this outside the gas station? Correct. That's me right there.
Keep going, go through and just take a look at all of them. And then
Yeah, I'm going to get it off Pepper.
And that's it, between 9 and 12 minutes after midnight, according to the cameras. And is that accurate as to your memory as you went to the pilot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you would just sign like Alex McCarty at pilot, just across it, so Alex McCarty at pilot. We move this in as surveillance video pilot 9 minutes after midnight on November 20th. Alex McCarty. And so in that trip to pilot is the conversation that we're talking about where he's telling you about the kidnapping and those types of things?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you arrive back from the pilot, do you continue to talk with him?
In the driveway, yeah, a lot of that conversation kept going.
All right. Tell the members of the jury what he did during that conversation, what he...
He told me he was concerned so much about his safety that he had stolen his grandfather's gun. And he showed it to me, pulled it out somewhere around the driver's side area.
Okay.
And
He had it concealed in the car somewhere?
yes,
Okay. And he pulled it out from where?
his driver's side area, I don't remember specifically to the side, maybe under the seat. It was on his side for sure.
Okay. And he pulls it out, and what does he do with the gun?
Shows it to me. It's just like kind of trying to tell me a story about out how scared he was and whatever about these people.
Okay. And do you recognize the gun? Do you know what kind of gun it is?
Yeah, I mean, since, yeah, I've seen guns very similar to it was a Glock 9mm.
Okay. And did he hand it to you
No, yes, yeah, he did.
that night?
I did hold it, yeah, that night.
Okay.
So when him telling me that he didn't know if it was loaded or not, and not to touch it or anything else.
Okay. Are you familiar with firearms?
No, sir.
Okay. So do you know what a clip is in a gun?
Yes.
A magazine?
Yeah.
Could you tell whether the clip was in it?
I don't know specifically.
Saturday night, you're not sure?
No.
Okay. And so, as a result of that conversation, do you go back, or after that conversation, do you go back inside?
Yes.
And anything else that he told you out there in the car that concerned you?
No, I mean, honestly, it got to the point where I was just kind of rambling and just like trying to talk to him. So my first thought was that he was suicidal and would like hurt himself. And so I just kind of started talking to him, like a pep talk almost, just telling him to come around, just using a rut. But
Okay. But none of the words that he was telling you, these reasonings that he was giving you for having taken his grandfather's gun, none of those were in the nature of suicide. Was that fair to say?
yes,
Okay. They were, or they
no, it is fair to say that they weren't.
he was protecting himself.
Yeah.
Were you believing that?
Not the story he gave me, not at all. But I don't know, Riley he always kind of lied about different circumstances. And I knew that just calling out on it wouldn't change his perspective. I just wanted to listen.
So this wasn't anything new in your friendship?
You know?
Okay. When you eventually the conversation ended, what did you two do next?
We went back inside. He didn't really seem to like pick up really at all. He still kind of stayed off to the side while we were all hanging out. But
What did he do with the gun?
kept it in the car.
Did you see where he concealed it?
The driver's side area, like I said, just to the left over the seat.
Okay. In the floorboard, on the floorboard side?
Underneath the seat, yes.
Okay. And when you got back inside, you said that he didn't change much. He was kind of moping. Did you find an opportunity at some point to speak with Noah or Isaac?
Once Riley had left, I remember pulling Noah and Isaac aside and telling them that Riley was in possession of a firearm, and that I was concerned, first of all, about his safety.
Okay, so you discussed it with Isaac and Noah specifically about what Riley had just shown you.
Yes.
Did you tell them details about what he had just told you?
Yeah, I mean, they already had that whole story, and like, they already told me the same story, and so I told them that he
What whole story?
about being kidnapped and going to their seating yard, and how people were after him.
Okay. And so you guys kind of convened in group and are discussing what to do.
Yeah.
What do you decide what to do?
Talk to him honestly. It was didn't come up with a good plan, I guess. It just
Who's going to come? Who's going to talk to him?
us together, sitting down, an intervention almost. That's what we said.
Okay. And did that happen?
It did not happen.
Okay. Were you present Sunday night there back at Noah's house?
Yes, sir.
And so you all were there. Was it you and who else?
Isaac and Noah and Riley, I believe.
Okay. And did you take that opportunity to do the intervention?
Yes, sir.
At some point, do people start leaving Sunday night?
Yeah, Roger leaves to go back to Maryland College to write a paper. He told us.
Okay. Approximately what time does Riley leave Noah's house to go back to Maryland?
11, around 11.
Okay. And you just said because he tells you that he's writing a paper?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any further discussion with your friends about what you're going to do about the gun?
Honestly, we didn't.
And when is it that you learn of Emma Walker, of her death?
Monday morning, Noah called me
And what does he tell you?
that Emma Walker had passed away, and there was a lot of confusion over the circumstances.
And what was your first thought?
That Riley was involved in some capacity. My first thought.
And were you made aware, or what was your understanding of how she had died when you first found out?
Suicide at first. So
Okay.
whether they were releasing a lot of information. I feel like a lot of the people essentially kind of ran wild with different theories.
Okay. And do you reach out to Riley that Monday?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And via text?
Yes, I do.
You ask him, bro, are you doing okay?
Yeah.
May I approach? What I'm showing you has been marked for identification as exhibit number 36. Do you recognize that, Mr. McCarty?
Yes, that's definitely my phone.
How do you know that's your phone?
I can do that back.
Okay. And the background of your phone, who is it that took the pictures of this phone?
Yes. Yeah, you work with pictures of, I assume?
I did?
The police?
The police did?
Yes.
Okay. And if you would thumb through that exhibit number 36 and tell us if that appears to be the communication that you had with Mr. Goll on the 21st,
Yeah,
or
that,
the 22nd.
yeah, that was after he gave me the address. That's when I went to his house and talked to him there. Yeah, he's all accurate to how I remember him.
We moved this in as 36, the text communication by between Mr. Goll and Mr. McCarty on the 21st. We could publish it. Yep. What we're looking at is the first page of Exhibit 36. It's on your screen right in front of you, Mr. McCarty. Tell the members of the jury, obviously they can see the text there where you're asking him, he's asking you to come visit him? Okay. And does that actually take place?
It does. I go to his house.
And what do you go to, what time do you arrive at his house?
I remember I was eating out at the family and there's a house afterwards, so sometime probably around 9 or so.
Okay, so when he texts you his location, it's 8:29 p.m.? Okay. And so you arrive at his house at sometime after 9?
Yeah, I would say.
And where do you go when you get to his house?
I never go inside of his house. We just, I'm in my car, we just talk in his driveway.
When you say we, who's we?
Me, Riley, and I did talk to his mother briefly.
Okay. Is anybody with you in your car?
No.
So you pull into his driveway at 2311 Woods End Way, and do you discuss with Riley what had happened to Emma?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. He said he didn't have a lot of information. The first thing I asked him was about the gun and if he still had it.
Okay. Tell the members of the jury specifically about that conversation. You said you asked him about the gun?
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell them that this is how that happened.
He told me that he'd already given it back to his grandpa at first. And we had a conversation. I was like very relieved, of course. And then his mom comes outside afterwards and
I'll object to anything that clerk Box said.
This is for the effect on the listener, how he responds to what she says, Judge.
You can see what it gives as a result of what their conversation.
Okay?
his mom just had said that the gun was so
I'm going to
missing.
object hearsay, that's not.
Saying is what she actually said.
Without saying what she said, what did you then know?
That the gun was still missing.
Okay.
She
And what did you
questioned about it.
did you confront Riley at that moment about the gun still being missing
No, in
then?
front of his mother, no. driveway, I was just kind of looking at him, kind of knew how I was looking at him, like, and as soon as whenever she walked away, that's when I was like, "Right, what are you doing?"
And what's he saying?
He said that the police would find a way to put it on him if they found a gun at all.
Okay.
And
And did you try and talk him out of that issue?
yeah, I told him that like if the gun should prove his innocence, if it was nothing to be, if he had nothing to hide, then he shouldn't be hiding anything.
Okay. Did you discuss at all with him Emma's cause of death there in the driveway?
Yeah, he did. I think at that point he did tell me there was a murder investigation. Like I'd already assumed that by that point I had.
You'd already assumed that
Yeah, at that point, that was luckily mainly because I remember talking to other people at Central. They some of the cheerleaders were protected custody, and I was like, well,
Judge, I want to object to the relevance of all that and conversations you had with those people.
yeah.
So I'm hearsay.
Just ask another question.
the conversation that you're having with him out there at the car, do you discuss specifically how she was, you said you knew it was a homicide investigation, you just discuss with him how she was murdered?
I do not believe so at that point.
Does he ever reveal to you anything about that, about the manner of death?
Yes,
What does he say to you about her manner of death?
that it was. I remember after getting questioned by police, it was Tuesday, the day that we were meeting over with him, and he was planning to give it evidence. He told me that, like, if the police had given him the information, that she was shot through the house.
Okay. And after you leave, though, on Monday afternoon or Monday evening, at 9 p.m., do you have further communication with him that night?
I do, yeah, over the phone.
Okay. And what do you guys talk about?
That's when I think actually he brought it up at first at his house. He did about getting rid of the guns and something about throwing it into a river.
Okay. And what did you advise him of that?
That was when I pretty much just knew exactly what was going on.
Okay. Does Riley know at this moment whether or not you have told Noah and Isaac about you seeing the gun the Saturday night?
I do not believe so.
Okay. So you, as friends, you guys are still operating under you're the only one that knows he's got the gun?
Yeah.
Okay. And so this conversation that goes into the next day on the 22nd?
Yeah. I think the conversation about us finally deciding that me telling him that I was going to help him or whatever when I really knew what was going on. I think that conversation was pretty much over with Monday night.
Okay.
Now I'm going to call the detectives soon, like that same night.
All right, so that's my next question. When is it that you decide you need to go to the police?
Monday night.
Okay.
I had the conversation at his house and then the phone calls afterwards.
And why is it that you decide you got to go to the police?
Because it was obvious what had happened.
Okay. And do you in fact go and tell the police and talk to the police, that is?
Yeah. Yes.
And what do you tell the police?
That Riley would feel comfortable getting rid of the murder weapon in my presence.
He's already asked you to?
Yes.
Did you already? Did you tell them? Did you tell the police about what happened Saturday night?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I had from very early on. Listening to talk.
All right. And now, at some point, obviously, the next day, does Riley contact you about doing that?
Yeah.
What you're talking about, getting rid of the gun? Does he discuss any particular plans of how he's going to do it?
Yeah. I think we said we were going to go to the bluffs. We were going to go off the bluffs.
Okay.
By the Woodlands apartments.
And so this is on Tuesday, the 22nd.
Yeah.
Tell us where the bluffs are.
Near the Woodlands apartments across the river near UT Hospital.
Okay, so just across the river here downtown?
Yes, sir.
And is that a place that you guys hang out or frequent?
Yeah, we used to go there more for sure, but Yeah, we've been there countless times.
Okay. And by bluffs, I guess it's the cliffs that are over there that we're referring to? And he is going to throw the gun off the bluff? You
Yes.
said. Okay. And are you aware that Riley, at some point, do you become aware that he gets interviewed by the police after you?
Yeah.
Do you know when that happens?
I'm not for sure today. I remember that he told me about it after we'd already moved up with him
Okay.
on Tuesday.
All right. But do you have conversation with him about it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to page 2 of Exhibit 36. And I'd ask to publish this conversation, and Judge, if we could have, you recognize page 2, obviously, of this exhibit. It's already into evidence, right?
Yeah. I guess that was Monday night, actually, so I guess you guys had talked to him before that. So I did.
Right. This is shortly after midnight going into Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. So shortly after midnight going into Tuesday, you'd already told the police, you'd already talked to the police, right?
Yes.
And you knew he had talked to the police, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to read the R parts, and you read what you said, okay?
Okay.
Alex, man, I need you to text me right now.
What's up?
Delete these texts after I send this next one to you, please.
Okay, I got you.
Why did you tell them about the gun? They think I shot her because of it. Please text me back.
If you didn't do anything, you got nothing to hide from, and I think you might use it to clear yourself after all this happened. I'm worried about you. Dude, why didn't you tell me you were trying to get rid of the gun? And you lied and said you already gave it back to your grandpa, and then your mom came outside and said she couldn't find it anyway.
They didn't know I gave it back. I didn't lie. Just God, please promise me if any cop asks you any more questions, just tell him you're not willing to answer because you can't get in any trouble.
But how would you throw the gun in a river if your grandpa has it? And why would you feel the need to even do that?
Because of this, because of them accusing me of doing this, just promise me I didn't fucking kill her. I would never hurt her, and I'm probably going to jail.
But if you give them the gun, they can prove that you didn't use that gun.
Just please don't talk to them anymore. I'm probably going to jail for something I didn't do.
You're not going to jail if you're innocent, but the police have to rule everything out. Are you saying that she was for sure shot? I didn't tell the cops anything. They didn't straight up ask me. And I didn't give them any more information than they already had.
Dude, I can talk to you in person later about it if I'm not in jail, but just please don't talk to the cops anymore and delete these texts.
Dude, just tell me what's going on. Did she get shot?
Alex, I really can't talk about any of it without breaking down. Just promise me you won't talk to them again. Okay. And after that conversation, did you call the police?
Yes.
And tell us, what was it that Riley was wanting you to do at this point, going into the next day?
Facilitate and help him get rid of the gun.
Okay. And when you contacted the police, did they respond? Did you speak with Detective Alan Merritt?
I believe so. It was a lot of business in the situation.
And when you were when all the arrangements were made with Mr. Goll about throwing the gun out, how was it going to happen? What was the plan according to Mr. Goll?
It was just, at first going to keep just me and him, and we were, like I said, just going to go to the bluffs and we're just going to throw it off.
And how is it that you've already told the jury that you were the one that had the confidential information, that information was not Noah's or Isaac's? How is it that you convey to the defendant that you had told your friends, your other buddies about the weapon?
It was Tuesday that I talked to him about me having talked to Noah at the same time. I think I kind of just sprung it on him. Honestly, I told him that it was cool, and I talked to him, and so I tried to make it as casual as possible. So I could imagine doing it by myself.
Getting rid of the gun by yourself with him? Okay. And so what was his response when you told him that you wanted Noah to participate in getting rid of the gun?
He was immediately really hesitant, but he didn't try to break off from the plan or anything. I mean, he just went to Noah's house, but I'm really talked to him in the car for a minute before we went inside, and that's when he was asking me, like, what did I know? Like, what does he think? And I was like, no, man, like, he thinks the same thing as me. Like, we're just here to help.
Okay. And so where is it that you guys convene to start this plan?
You know, Walton's house.
How does Riley get there?
He drives in his car.
And about what time does this all, the plan to get rid of the gun start?
Oh, no, it was dark already. It was a little later, for sure, like 9, 10.
Okay. Had Alan Merritt, the Sheriff's Department, given you some recording devices at this point?
Yeah, we went prior to leaving Fernando's house, so yes.
Okay. And did you turn those recording devices on?
Yes, sir.
And so you and Noah are there at the house. You talk to Riley outside. Does Riley eventually make his way inside?
Yeah, me and I go in together after that. He told me to come outside, and we got there, and I talked to him in his car for a minute, and then we went inside together.
Okay. And all of this is recorded?
Yes.
And when you have had an opportunity to review that recording
Yes.
and review a transcript of the recording,
Yes, sir.
and you initialed it as accurate as to your memory?
Definitely, yes.
Well, we won't talk about specifically what was talked about because we'll be hearing that, but tell us, where is it that you folks, you and Noah and the defendant Riley, head to?
After we leave Noah's house, we were heading to the Bluffs. We made 2 stops along the way. One at Cookout for food and one at Pilot for gas.
Okay. And how is it that you're communicating with the police department or with the sheriff's department?
I knew that they were comforting with being able to hear everything that was going on, but I know that I had no contact with him. I knew that Noah was in the back seat, so he was able to be on his phone a little bit more. I believe that he was texting you all kind of updating me.
Okay. Whose car did you drive in?
My car.
And what, obviously you were the driver, if it was your car. What seat did Riley Gaul occupy?
He was in the passenger seat.
Okay. And Noah was in, you said, the back seat? All right. You said you went to Cookout, right, first. And at this point, when you go to Cookout, had you seen any guns?
No.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I mean, we made 3 stops. Sorry about that. We had to go to his stepdad's house.
Okay.
Plumber.
Is that the first stop you make on
That is
Plumber?
the first stop we made.
All right, go ahead and tell the members of the jury about that. On your way from Noah's house, you have to stop on Plumber?
To pick up what I said is the gun.
Okay, and describe that circumstance of how that happens. You pull up, do you go into Seth's house? Or?
We did not park at a church across kind of the street. It's like across the street and down a little bit. And we parked in the back, and Riley said that he would come back with the gun.
Okay, and did he come back with more than the gun?
Yes, he came out with the trash bag full.
Okay. And did he tell you what the trash bag was for?
He just said that he picked up a random trash bag and he just stuffed the gun in it.
Okay. At some point, are you able to see the contents of that bag?
I could see when he was opening it when we had a ride finally at the Bluffs. It looked just like a lot of black clothes, a pair of white gloves.
Okay. And with regard to the trash bag, where did he place it during the travel?
Just in between his legs.
Okay. And so you said Noah was communicating with the police department or the sheriff's department on his phone in the back seat?
Yes.
And you guys eventually, after stops, make it to the Bluffs?
Yeah.
And where you are arrested?
Yeah. We were just waiting to be able to see the gun before then Noah was supposed to text him whenever we seen it in our eyes.
Okay. And does the defendant, prior to that, discuss any of the possibility of you negating your testimony or somehow you guys saying that your testimony was false? Does he talk about that with you at all?
He did. Yeah, while we were still in Noah's house, he told me that if I told the police that I was under the influence of drugs, like in those days, that it would negate my testimony.
Okay.
Like I didn't know what was going on or something.
And so when you go, when you get to the Bluffs, does he, you said he opens the bag and you're able to see into it?
Yeah.
What does he remove from the bag?
The gun.
And what does he do with the gun?
He removes the gloves first, puts on the gloves, and then he brings the gun with the gloves.
What kind of gloves did he put on?
They were white chop house gloves, I believe.
Okay. And kitchen type gloves?
Yes.
All right.
Chef gloves, yeah.
And does he at some point hand the gun to you?
Yeah, he does. Or I think I did. I'm not for sure. I was holding it first thing when the police came up, and then I grabbed it back.
Did you have gloves on when you held it?
I did not.
But he did?
He did.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what's going on in my head.
And the police arrive and arrest him?
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
Counsel, please approach. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the lunch hour. We'll go ahead and break for lunch. Please don't discuss the case or talk about it. Just enjoy your lunch and start back to the work.